Hi, public speakers. This lecture is meant to be more a talk about your upcoming assignments rather than a specific content-based lecture about some course concept. So you have 3 upcoming speeches, your last 3 assignments in the course, and all of these assignments are linked by one common concept, and that is a choice you have to make in the next week or so, and that is your choice of a community. So in this first speech that you're about to give now, that's due in late February, it's called the community speech, and what it is simply you detailing the ties that bind a specific community that you've chosen together. What are their habits? What are their customs? What are their rituals? Do they have a particular slang or secret handshake or dances or rituals or songs that they sing? Anything that an anthropologist or somebody explaining a community to people who didn't know that community might detail in a speech. It's a thesis-driven account saying this is the particular tie that binds this community together. So that's the ties that bind speech. The next speech, your division speech, you show how the community is fraying or debating or arguing over a specific controversy. So that division is meant to show one particular issue and how it's dividing the community. Finally, your last assignment in the course is your action speech. In your action speech, you take that division speech and you say, well, this is the division, this is the controversy, and this is the side that I support. So it's a persuasive speech, whereas the first speech is a ceremonial speech about a community, the second speech is an informative, neutral, nonpartisan speech about 2 sides of a controversy that the community is arguing about. And then the third speech is just a simple persuasive speech where you say which side of the debate that you're on. But it all hinges on picking a great community, picking a community that works for you, that you can research. When I've given this assignment in the past, students have made, not many, but some students have made a fundamental error, which is that they choose a controversy or an issue that people are arguing about, let's say gun control or gay marriage, but they haven't picked a community first. And so if you pick a controversy, giving this first speech about the community is going to be really, really difficult. If you pick a community that doesn't really have arguments with each other, then you're going to have a great first speech, but your second 2 speeches are going to suffer as a result. So you need to think about giving these 3 speeches and not just this next speech when you pick your community. And I think that there are 3 ways to pick a successful community, and I'll re-explain these in some text slides after this speech is done. The first is that you need to pick a community that's big enough to be researched. And when I say big enough to be researched, I mean big enough to have been written about by scholars, by academics, by major journalists, even people who write books. Oftentimes, if students don't pick a community that's large enough, they have difficulty finding information, especially finding information that they can cite in their speeches on both sides of the topic, in the division speech and then finally in the action speech. You need to also pick a community that is for sure divided by at least one major controversy. And so before you pick a community, make sure that you can find information where supporters identifying themselves on one side of the debate are clearly attacking people on the other side of the debate, even though they're both members of the same community. So to give an example, a local example, I think that you could give 2 different speeches just about the Charleston community alone. So in the first speech, you would give a speech about the customs, the history, the practices of Charlestonians. How can you identify somebody from Charleston versus another Southerner or somebody else in South Carolina? Your second speech, you could go one of 2 routes. You could give a first speech about the upcoming mayoral election that's divided Charlestonians over who will succeed after Mayor Riley, and so you could show how each party has different visions for the city. And then finally, in that political angle, you would give your final speech about which side you support, the Republicans or the Democrats. In a different angle, you could go the cruise ship route, and so you give your first speech about the customs, habits, and practices, the things that bind Charlestonians together as a community. And then the second speech, your division speech, you would give about the port or the cruise controversy. So many people are debating about whether we should have more or less cruise traffic in Charleston, and whether we should adjust the port to give more space to bigger and bigger ships, meaning more and more tourist traffic. So that second speech, you would give a division speech about the pros and the cons of increased port traffic, increased commercial traffic from cruise liners. And then finally, in your third speech for that cruise line angle, you would just specifically say which side of the debate you're on and detail those positions. So that's how I think you can pick a successful community. I've had lots and lots of students pick amazing communities, creative communities, all the way from speech pathologists to surfers, giving great first speeches about the surfing community or speech pathologists, and then controversies that divide those communities. So I think you can be really creative. I think there's lots of good options, but the point is you need to make a good decision, and you should probably make it within the next week or so. And I'd like to email with everybody about your choices just to make sure we clear up any questions or any lingering problems people have in choosing communities.